From the first issue of Skybound's Transformers comic series, death was on display. It was a shock to me at first that writer Daniel Warren Johnson was so bold to declare such important characters as deceased from the get-go. In issue 1, the well-known and beloved Bumblebee is shot directly in the face by the maniacal Starscream. Now, other characters are shown as offline at the start of issue 1, and we do see that the supercomputer Teletran 1 can rebuild and reactivate Cybertronians. But I think Johnson makes it a point to explain that the rebuilding of a Cybertronian body is not the easiest thing to do. It takes an immense amount of energon to bring someone back online, and as we see with Wheeljack later in the comic, not every part of them is instantly salvageable. That's why the execution of Bumblebee hits so hard in the first issue. For people who may have not experienced Transformers in another media before, Bumblebee's death may not hit so hard. He's just another robot. We know nothing about him in this continuity, but once again the comic allows these characters to fully express their emotions in such an elegant way. Optimus Prime and Spike sit down for a quiet moment and speak about their worlds. These two beings are so different from each other, and yet they can both relate under the same concept: family. But that brings us to the main point of the video. There's a lot of death in this series. Firstly, death is shown in full force, whether it be the execution of unarmed combatants or the squashing of humans. This comic is violent. In the case of the human deaths, I think Johnson is trying to remind us just how deadly these giant machines are. We've gotten used to them on the silver screen jumping around cities and battling all around humans with no collateral damage really shown. Transformers is not really an R-rated property, so human death in a gruesome way is not to be expected. That's why when Starscream starts killing humans left and right, I was extremely shocked and honestly kind of put off by the comic at first. This wasn't my Transformers. They can't do that. And yet it made sense. These giant machines are practically like gods to us humans. They can take life easily and whenever they want. The second point I have about death in this series is the constant use of it. We all know the idea of too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Now, death isn't good, but character deaths can serve as great story points. Bumblebee's death in issue 1 demonstrates to us that Johnson isn't playing around. This isn't the G1 cartoon. This is more akin to the original movie, albeit done a little bit better. But there's a lot of death. Like, a lot of it. And it's been used on some pretty well-known characters. Now, these characters could theoretically be brought back. We know there's always a way to do that, but in one sense, I kinda hope that they aren't. It's easy to kill off a beloved character to bring some emotional resonance to the story, and yet, all too often do we see the same character brought back so that the status quo is not disrupted. It can be done correctly, usually with a good amount of time between the character's death and their revival, but I do worry that Johnson is playing all of his cards too quickly in the series. I'd actually like to read a comment from Reddit that I found regarding a death in issue 9, so if you're not caught up on the issues, please go read that first. Ratchet is my favorite Transformer, so this issue was pretty gutting. It's also a bummer that he didn't get to do much in this comic. I have to remind myself that nothing erases IDW, Prime, or Animated. Different continuities provide different opportunities for different characters to shine. I found myself wondering whether the colossal death count of this series is really warranted, but it occurred to me that this is nothing new. The '86 movie was my introduction to the franchise, and the G2 comic is the one that I grew up with. G2 is probably the high watermark for senseless violence in the franchise. Mirage randomly getting decapitated without having done anything. Optimus blowing up Tantrum and then dropping an ironic one-liner. Countless 2 or 3 panel character deaths in issue 12, etc. I feel like the losses in this comic carry more depth, and it's largely because Johnson is excellent at writing strong, efficient character beats. Ratchet's death isn't just tragic because he's a great character, it's because this comic has done a great job underlining Cliffjumper's journey as a survivor who is trying to maintain a sense, or lack of better term, humanity. Ratchet's death returns Cliffjumper to a state of terror and vulnerability that he'd worked hard to move past. I think this comic captures my thoughts very well. The losses in this comic carry so much weight because these characters have been built and written so well. I'm still enjoying this series a whole lot. In my mind, it's one of the cleanest and best written iterations of the Transformers universe, paying respects to the original ethos and carving a new path for itself. But the amount of character death is starting to worry me. I do have faith in Johnson and his team. They so far have given us such a great story, and I'm sure they'll continue to provide for many years to come. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about all the character deaths that we've seen in the Skybound universe. Again, I know these characters can be brought back. Jetfire is a character who died earlier on in the comic series, and Ratchet actually had a quote where he told Optimus that the Matrix can heal, but it cannot stop the inevitable, which kind of gave us this idea that when they're dead, and yet Jetfire was able to be brought back online. Perhaps I'm missing something there from the comics that I just read over, but bringing characters back to life from death, I know is possible. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Bumblebee at some point. Megatron obviously has been alluded to being dead or offline, but my guess is that you kind of have the offline state, and then you have it when someone's spark is extinguished. But we'll see how that turns out. But again, please let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. I definitely would also appreciate if you subscribed. I'm making a lot of these videos. But again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.